One of the things I learned from my grandfather is when we used to drink wine. Every time we finished a bottle, we'd throw it off something and say another dead soldier. And so I do that now with my pens. Every time I run out of ink for one of my pens when I write my books, I make a note of another dead soldier, I date it, and I label what book it was. And it got me looking as I ran out of ink with another pen the other day. I have a box full of labeled pens from everything I've ever written, from screenplays when I was like 16 years old all the way up to now. And what it shows you is that even a nobody leaves behind artifacts if he's done any amount of work. And oftentimes when you look at prophets, I'm not going to say names for a reason because there's not just one, but many of them have not one record left behind from their life. Not only that, you won't find any accounts of people that existed as their contemporaries about them. You won't even find historians who are in the same regions and the same locations while they were doing their greatest work, becoming famous in a very short time, allegedly. You won't find those historians making any accounts of them. And there's a reason for this, and it shouldn't be something that anyone should have to walk on eggshells around, you people. This should be just common sense, but it's not. If a man leaves nothing behind, he was not a man. He didn't exist. Look around you. Look at how idolatrous the human race is. Look at all the efforts that certain religions have gone through to destroy idols, to prevent cultures from sinking into idolatry. People, whether it's thousands of years ago or whether it's today with all their little trinkets. I mean, you're looking at idols and idolatry with fucking NFTs right now. Looking at baseball cards. You're looking at signed autographs of memorabilia, everything. To hide behind the fact that somebody was illiterate and therefore could not leave anything behind is nonsense. Even if you were illiterate, you had your sign, you had your signature. There's no way you wouldn't be carving that into things, especially when you look at how people wrote back then with pen knives and all this other really interesting things. Also, when you note the philosophers back in those days, they all had their own languages, so they could keep their teachings within their school of philosophy or their mystery school. So the point that I'm making is a lot of you use egregores as historical things to construct your worldview and to sometimes achieve your feats, and that's okay. Nobody's judging that. But it's when you become a liar and start telling people these are real people, these are real entities that existed, you've now become a deceiver. And just because somebody creates an archetype and then uses that or thinks about that archetype to perform a miracle or to heal somebody, that doesn't mean that the archetype was a historical person. So that is magic. And a lot of you are using magic, and I'm not somebody that judges anybody and thinks magic is bad. Obviously, if you use it for selfish purposes, you're engaging in sorcery, and that would be where I would draw the line. But a lot of you will assault magic all day long and then simultaneously use it. And it's very bizarre what I see in these spaces. But getting back to people who may or may not work a miracle, well, you've got two options. One, they're full of shit, or two, they did something. And if they did something, now you have to think about, is that something replicable? Can it be repeated? Can someone else learn that skill set? If not, what are they doing that's special? Is it just them that's capable of that? I don't know. these are the things, the burdens that you're forced to, you're forced to carry if you're the one that's going to be making these claims. But be weary of people who may perform a great feat and then you give them all the credibility in the world so that everything else they say you just accept at face value, because they could be deceiving you or just wrong about a lot of things. But because they worked a miracle or healed you, you now have given them that perceived authority of expertise where they can do no wrong. So I guess I'm desensitized to this because one of my friends when I grew up in college, he was a magician, and he worked with famous people you all know and has done it, and he could perform literal miracles, things that you just wouldn't think are possible right in front of you, but he would never do the same thing twice because he didn't want you finding out how he did it. That's their code. Well, I would strongly encourage you that to consider the fact that there are guilds who can do incredible feats, and they keep that within themselves. That's how they've maintained an advantage as far back as we can see. So be wary when calling things miracles, because just because you can't explain something, it doesn't mean it's a miracle. And never underestimate what a human being is capable of, because we are all capable of greatness, great things. Once somebody does it, everyone else usually learns how to do it, and it no longer is looked at as a miracle. But I'll just leave it here. Contemplate this stuff. Stop chasing things that are observably not real and imbuing it with your emotion. You're literally defaulting to emotionalism. All right, have a good one.